You ever worked for someone who made you question your entire self-worth? The kind of manager who smiles to your face, then quietly twists the knife in your back? Well, I had one, and the best part? Months later, I became her boss, and karma finally delivered the knockout she deserved. If you've ever had a toxic manager who made you feel small, hit that like button, because this story is for everyone. Who's ever dreamed of watching karma work in real time? So sit back, relax, and listen to how I turned my lowest moment into the most satisfying revenge of my life. Last year, my husband and I both lost our jobs within the same month. We worked at different companies, but when the economy crashed, both of us were laid off. It was brutal. We had a mortgage, bills piling up, and no safety net left. Every night, we'd sit at the kitchen table with stacks of envelopes, calculators, and that sinking feeling, the kind that makes your stomach twist into knots. So when I finally got a job offer, I didn't think twice. It wasn't as senior as my old position, but I didn't care. We needed stability. The manager who interviewed me, Gary, seemed decent, soft-spoken, logical, respectful. The team looked friendly. For the first time in months, I felt a little bit of hope again. If only I knew that hope wouldn't last. Gary was the department manager, but he was swamped with meetings. So during my onboarding, he said something like, "You'll mostly coordinate with Jane for day-to-day tasks. She's one of our project managers, sharp, efficient, and very hands-on." Hands-on was an understatement. Jane introduced herself with this fake, sugary smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her voice was polite, but there was something off about it, too sharp, too controlled at first. She seemed fine, but within a week, she started showing her true colors. It began with little digs. "Hey, I noticed you take your full lunch break every day. That's great. But the rest of us usually eat at our desks. We just try to go the extra mile here. Then your report looked good, but maybe next time, make sure the tone sounds smarter, smarter." I brushed it off. Maybe she was just direct, but that wasn't it. Jane had this obsessive need to control everything. She'd message me on Teams every hour. "Where are we on this? Have you sent that email yet? Did you see me on that?" If I didn't reply within 5 minutes, she'd ping again. It didn't stop there. She'd schedule meetings during lunch breaks. If I tried to leave for a doctor's appointment, she'd act irritated. "Can't you reschedule that? We've got deliverables." Then came the after-hours calls. 11 p.m. on a Saturday, my phone would buzz. "Hi, just wanted to check where we are with tomorrow's agenda." Tomorrow's agenda on a Sunday. I remember looking at my husband once, phone in hand, and saying, "She doesn't even see me as a person. I'm just a machine to her." He'd squeeze my hand and say, "Hang in there, babe, it's temporary." But it didn't feel temporary. It felt like a prison. Over time, the criticism got personal. It wasn't just about work anymore. She'd look at me up and down during meetings and say, "You know, you're pretty big for your ethnicity. Most women from your background are smaller." Or, "You should try walking during lunch. It helps people stay energized." She said it in front of others, laughing like it was a joke. But it wasn't. Each comment cut deeper than the last. At night, I'd sit on the couch, staring at my laptop, replaying her words in my head. Was I overreacting? Was I too sensitive? Then one morning, I saw her make the same kind of comment to a coworker, a young woman fresh out of college. She mocked her voice for being too squeaky. The poor girl laughed nervously, but I could see her eyes, embarrassed, small. That's when I realized it wasn't me. Jane was just cruel. It all came to a head one Friday afternoon. I'd been dealing with a family tragedy that week. We'd lost someone close. and I hadn't even had time to process it. I was behind on one small task, scheduling a meeting. I'd set it up, but accidentally forgot to include one of Jane's team members. Big mistake. She burst into my cubicle area, waving her phone like a weapon. "What is this? You scheduled a meeting without including my analyst. Do you even know how this team works?" Her voice carried across the room. People looked up. I tried to explain I didn't know he was part of that chain, Jane. Don't interrupt me, she snapped. "This is exactly what I mean. You're careless and unqualified." My throat tightened. My hands shook. And before I could stop it, tears filled my eyes. I just couldn't hold it in anymore. Jane saw me crying and smirked. "If you can't handle pressure, maybe this job isn't for you." That was it. Something inside me broke. I walked straight to Gary's office. He was mid-meeting, but stopped the moment he saw my face. I closed the door behind me, sat down, and for the first time, told him everything. Every insult, every late-night call, every time she'd crossed the line. He listened quietly, nodding slowly. When I finished, he sighed. "You're not the first person to say this," he said. "Half her team has already quit." My jaw dropped. "Then why is she still here?" I asked. "Her manager is overseas," he said, "and HR hasn't done anything about it. I'll move you under me. You'll report directly to me from now on." It was like someone had finally thrown me a life raft. For the first time in months, I felt relief. The first couple of weeks after moving under Gary were bliss. No more midnight calls, no more insults, no more tiptoeing around her moods. I started to feel normal again, productive, confident, human. But Jane couldn't stand losing control. It started with little things, accidental CCs on emails, trying to insert herself into projects she no longer managed. Then one day, she sent me a message. "Can you send me the updated status report for the client project? I'm still advising that team." I ignored it. That wasn't her domain anymore. The next day, she showed up at my desk. She leaned in and said, loudly enough for people nearby to hear, "Ignoring emails now? Guess professionalism isn't your strong suit." I kept my tone calm. "Jane, you're not part of that project anymore." Her eyes flashed. "And you're not qualified to tell me that." She turned around, muttering something under her breath about people getting promoted beyond their capabilities. That's when Gary walked up, mid-conversation with someone else, and caught the tail end. He stopped. "Jane, that's enough. She doesn't report to you anymore." "Drop it." Her face turned red. She mumbled something like "fine" and stormed off. But I knew this wasn't over. Over the next 2 months, she found new ways to needle me. Spreading rumors, making snide comments in hallway conversations, even leaving me out of meeting invites that involved my team. It was subtle, but constant. A slow drip of poison, until one morning I just couldn't anymore. I woke up, got dressed for work, and stared at myself in the mirror. I looked exhausted, empty, like someone who'd been drained of every ounce of self-worth. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. Enough was enough. I walked into the office early that morning before anyone else. I sat down, opened a blank document, and started typing. "Dear Gary, please accept this as my formal resignation." But I wasn't going quietly. I attached a 3-page document, the one where I'd written down every offensive comment Jane had ever made. I stapled it to my resignation letter, printed it, and sent it to HR, Gary, and upper management. Then, in the email, I wrote, "I am leaving not because of the work, but because of the continued toxic behavior allowed by management. This is the reality of working here. By the time people arrived, the email had already spread like wildfire. Gary called me into his office, visibly upset. "I'm so sorry," he said. "Please don't go. We can move you again, work from home, anything you need." But I shook my head. "The only way I stay is if Jane goes." He sighed, looking genuinely regretful. "I can't. She doesn't report to me." So I packed up my things. As I walked out of that building, I saw her standing by the elevators, smirking. And I remember thinking, you may have won this round, but karma never forgets. The next few months were hell. My husband still hadn't found a stable job. We were behind on bills. We had nights where dinner was just slices of bread and coffee. We had to sell a few things just to make the mortgage. I applied to jobs every day, sometimes 10, sometimes 20. Most didn't even reply. There were moments I doubted myself completely. Maybe Jane was right. Maybe I wasn't good enough. But I kept pushing, kept applying, kept believing that somehow things would turn. And one day, they did. It happened on an ordinary Wednesday morning. I was scrolling through LinkedIn when I saw a company update. A big shot executive from my old firm had just joined the company I'd left. I'd worked with him closely years ago. He was sharp, ambitious, and fair, the kind of leader who valued results, not politics. I sent him a quick message. "Congrats on the new role. If you ever need insights about the team or culture, happy to share what I learned." He replied within minutes. "Would love that. Can you hop on a quick call later today?" We talked for half an hour. I gave him honest feedback. What worked, what didn't, and where the company could improve. At the end of the call, he paused. He said, "I could really use someone like you to help me settle in. Someone who knows how this place runs." I laughed. "Thanks, but I'm actually between jobs right now." "Even better," he said. "Come work for me, chief of staff." I froze. "Wait, you're serious?" "Dead serious. You are one of the most capable people I worked with. I'll send you the offer tomorrow." And just like that, I had a new job with a massive promotion. I was going back to the same company, 2 levels above Jane. Walking back into that building felt surreal. The same glass doors, the same smell of burnt coffee, the same dull hum of office chatter. But this time, I wasn't walking in as an exhausted employee under Jane's thumb. I was walking in as a department head, reporting directly to the new executive, my former mentor. The receptionist smiled and said, "Welcome back." I smiled back, holding my badge up like a quiet trophy. Inside, people I used to work with did double takes. Some waved, some whispered. Word travels fast in offices, especially when someone returns with a higher title. But one face I didn't see right away was hers. Jane. I knew she'd still work there. I'd seen her name on the org chart, and soon enough, fate made sure we crossed paths. Tea happened 2 days later. I was walking out of a meeting with my new team when I saw her turn the corner. She stopped mid-step. Her face went pale, like she'd seen a ghost. "Hi, Jane," I said casually. She blinked twice, forcing a polite smile. "Oh, wow. You're back?" I smiled. "Yeah, chief of staff to the new EVP." Her lips parted slightly, just enough for that flicker of panic to show. She recovered fast, though. "That's great. Congrats." "Thanks," I said, walking past her. "See you around." She didn't say anything, but her eyes followed me all the way down the hallway, wide, wary, and full of something that looked a lot like fear. And all that moment felt good. Now, I didn't plan to get revenge right away. I wanted to take my time to do it right. Because real revenge isn't about yelling or confrontation. It's about watching karma unfold naturally when the truth comes to light. As chief of staff, I had access to almost everything: performance reports, project data, feedback forms, even complaint histories. And you know what I found? A pattern. Over the last 6 months, 4 employees had quietly resigned from Jane's team, all citing hostile management or lack of respect. There were HR notes too, mild warnings, but nothing serious. She'd always found a way to justify her behavior or shift blame. So I decided to wait. I let her dig her own grave. Over the next few weeks, I sat in meetings where she tried to sound authoritative, like the queen of efficiency she always claimed to be. But her tone had changed. That arrogance she once flaunted had turned into nervous chatter. She kept over-explaining things, trying to sound confident. And every time she saw me across the room, she'd straighten up, force a smile, like a school kid trying to impress a teacher. Once, during a cross-department meeting, she tried to take credit for a project she hadn't touched. I knew the truth, of course. So, when my EVP asked, "Jane, were you the one who led this initiative?" I calmly replied before she could answer, "Actually, that was Daniel's team. Jane's group handled only the follow-up analytics." There was a long pause. Jane's smile twitched. "Oh, yes, right," she said quickly. "Just the analytics." Everyone turned back to me for confirmation, not her. The power shift was clear. And the best part? I didn't have to say a single cruel word. Karma's timing is funny. 2 months into my new role, the EVP, my boss asked me to review the company's leadership satisfaction scores. Basically, a detailed internal survey showing which managers were performing well and which ones weren't. And guess whose department scored the lowest? Jane's. The comments were brutal. Toxic atmosphere. Feels like walking on eggshells. Micromanagement to the point of burnout. Manager discourages open communication. My EVP frowned when he saw the results. "That's a pattern," he said. "Has this been looked into before?" I didn't even have to lie. It was, but apparently HR never escalated it properly. He nodded slowly. "Then let's fix that." And just like that, a full HR investigation was launched. You could feel the tension shift in the building. Jane stopped smiling. Her voice grew softer in meetings. She stopped interrupting people. She even started being nice, but it was too late. HR interviewed half her team, and the stories that came out were worse than I expected. Insults, pressure, late-night calls, favoritism, even crying in bathrooms. One of her analysts said, "I thought I was the problem until I saw others go through the same thing." The HR manager compiled everything into a report, 10 pages long, and sent it to my EVP for review. He looked at me across his desk and said, "You were right. She shouldn't be in management." And I just nodded because I knew karma was finally here. They called her into a meeting on a Friday morning. HR, my EVP, and me. She walked in, trying to act confident, but her hands were shaking. I could see it. She sat down, crossed her legs, and forced a smile. "So what's this about?" The HR rep cleared her throat. "Jane, we've received multiple complaints about your management practices. We've conducted a full investigation. And unfortunately, the findings are serious." Her smile dropped. "Complaints? From who?" "Your direct reports," HR said. "There's a clear pattern of verbal hostility, manipulation, and creating a hostile work environment." She turned to me. "You had something to do with this, didn't you?" I looked her in the eye, calm, steady. I didn't have to. The truth spoke for itself. She glared. "You think you're better than me now?" I leaned forward slightly. No, but I do think people deserve better than what you gave them. She scoffed, stood up, and muttered, "This place is a joke." But HR wasn't done. "Jane, please sit down." "We're not finished." She froze. That was the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. By the end of that meeting, the verdict was clear. She was being demoted, effective immediately, and placed on a 6-month performance review with mandatory management training. She tried to argue, but there was no room left. Her words meant nothing against the thick folder of documented complaints. When she left that room, her face was pale and tight. The confident, controlling woman who once made others cry was gone, replaced by someone scared and powerless. And as she walked past my desk, our eyes met for one last time. I didn't smirk. I didn't gloat. I just said quietly, "Take care, Jane." Because that's the thing about revenge. The best kind doesn't need noise. It's quiet. It's complete. It's final. A few months later, after her demotion, I got promoted again, director of operations. Meanwhile, Jane quietly resigned. No email. No LinkedIn post. Just disappeared. Someone later told me she'd taken a job at a small company across town. A downgrade in every sense. And honestly, I didn't even feel hate anymore. Just closure. Looking back now, I realized something. If I hadn't gone through that nightmare, I might have never found my strength. Sometimes life doesn't hand you justice right away. Sometimes you have to walk away, rebuild, and let karma catch up when the time's right, because it always does. And when it finally does, it's the sweetest sound you'll ever hear. So to anyone out there dealing with a toxic boss, don't lose hope. You don't have to scream, fight, or play dirty. Just keep working on yourself, keep growing, and let karma handle the rest. Because one day you'll walk back into that same building, and the people who tried to break you will be the ones watching you rise. She destroyed my career, but I became her boss. Karma always finds a way.